Let's talk about America's bright future, huh? Max Frost is a very young man who just won political office. He is interviewed by ABC. He's a representative-elect right now, so he's not actually in office. But he did get a first interview with a major network. And when I saw the headline for this video, I jumped to conclusions. I started typing up the show notes for today. I was like, oh, Max Frost off to a bad start. Max Frost lets us down already. Yeah, I was trying to process this information, but I'm listening to the interview, and I had to replay it because the ABC title was Max Frost saying, or was a quote from him, and it was snipped out of context, and it says that compromise is necessary. Basically, the standard centrist Dem line, which went very much against what I had heard Max Frost campaigning on. It is not so. Don't fall for it. Let's look at the interview. It tells you about who he is. If you're not familiar with his path to politics, and tells you about who he's going to be in office.
At just 25 years old, Maxwell Frost became an overnight political sensation after winning a 10-way primary for an open house seat in Florida. When he takes office next week, the gun control activist and part-time Uber driver will become the youngest member of Congress, where the average lawmaker is more than twice his age. We sat down together at the iconic Capitol Hill restaurant Bullfeathers to talk about his new role and the future of the Democratic Party. You haven't been sworn in yet, but do you feel like a member of Congress yet?
I'm definitely feeling the love, especially from a lot of the Democrats, especially in the different caucuses I'm joining.
And when you were running, you had to do some Uber work, right? You worked as an Uber driver.
Yeah.
Because you needed to live while you were also running for Congress. What's it going to be like up here? I mean, this is not cheap. Do you have to...
Yeah. I mean, it's not cheap. I'm dealing with it right now, getting denied from apartments, trying to figure out where to live because I have bad credit. Probably just going to have to, like, couch surf for a little bit. So you're 25, soon to be 26, but you've actually been at this a long time. I mean, you're kind of like a veteran political activist. I've been in this for 10 years. Actually, just last night, I spoke at the vigil for all victims of gun violence right down the road at St. Mark's Episcopal Church, and I've been going to that vigil for 10 years, since I was 15 years old. And
it was Sandy Hook, which was one of those tragedies that, you can think, like, where were you when you heard the news of that horrific massacre? But that's what got you into this.
That's what got me into it. Yeah, I mean, I went to arts high school, middle school, and before every jazz band concert, my best friends and I would go across the street to this restaurant, load up on a ton of junk food, and I remember there eating, and there was a silence that fell across the restaurant. We looked up at the television screens and saw that somebody walked into an elementary school in Newtown, Connecticut, and murdered 20 children and 6 teachers. And I remember at the show that night I was playing, couldn't think straight, kept looking at the exits, so was very anxious.
Relatable.
And it's really what propelled me to come up to here to the vigil and dedicated my life to fighting for a world where there's no gun violence.
So I saw one of your campaign ads features this interaction you had with DeSantis.
Before we get into that, this is just because of his age, because of the harsh reality he grew up in, which is the one we have to live in. He is indeed one of the most relatable politicians in America. I don't think you have to be relatable to be a good politician. But it certainly helps. It helps that he understands that when young folks see a mass shooting, or when people who can't afford to just stay home see a mass shooting, it makes them look at their surroundings in a way that rich folks don't have to.
2 months ago, I confronted Governor DeSantis on ending gun violence. And what did he say?
Nobody wants to hear from you. What was going on there?
Yeah, so look, Governor DeSantis never comes to Orlando, and when he does, it's to either do a press conference where he spewing bigotry and hate, or to make money for his friends, which is exactly what he was doing there. He was a special guest at a private thing for a podcaster. And so we, in the spirit of direct action and protest, we decided to show up. And look, I didn't stand up and yell and curse at him or anything. I just stood up and said, Governor, what's your plan to end gun violence? We're dying. And this was.
Normally, I try not to listen to the whole clip all the way through. This is what made me double check that. I try to do like a raw listening here live with you, so that you can get just more natural reaction. In this case, though, I did listen to the whole thing because I'm hearing that and I'm like, how does this guy arrive at let's compromise as a main talking point? Let's compromise with these people.
About a week and a half after the Uvalde shooting,
he explains
he hadn't said a
like
single word about ending gun violence. And so we came to him with a plea. And what I got in return was nobody wants to hear from you, getting dragged out by security, having popcorn thrown at me. And
how satisfying will it be if this guy winds up taking DeSantis's job in some form? Oh.
People yelling curse words and racial slurs.
And what was the reception that you got for that ad? I mean, that kind of, and the moment it went viral.
Yeah.
I mean, getting shouted down by the Republican governor as a young candidate, as a Democrat, must actually not been a bad thing.
Yeah, well, we decided to flip it on its head and use it, and we put it on broadcast in the district. We, got nothing but people giving us calls and sending us messages saying, I saw your ad. I haven't seen an ad like that ever or in a long time.
But you were sent to campaign in Georgia. You hadn't even been sworn in yet as a member of Congress, but you were campaigning for Raphael Warnock.
Yeah.
And I noticed you playing drums at a Students for Warnock event.
That was in an indoor skate park. It's one of the coolest campaign events I've ever been to.
Wow.
Yeah.
So we're going to be seeing more of that? I mean, you're a jazz drummer?
Yeah. I play jazz, hip hop, different styles. Yeah, of course. I mean, something that I want to work on. It's a bit more extracurriculars, bringing the arts more on the Hill, having concerts on the Hill, stuff like that. I think it's important. The arts it's really important to me. I mean, it's at the level of politics for me.
What do you want to kind of define your time in Congress?
Yeah, I mean, I want to get things done, right? And I want to make sure that, I know we have to compromise to get things done, especially in this next Congress, but I never want to lose sight of our North Star. I think we're in this politics now where people are scared to talk about their North Star. Even in my own party, right? And I think it's important that we not lose sight of that. Healthcare for everybody, ending gun violence, combating the climate crisis. These things.
Listen to the difference here. The difference between ABC's video title, which is "We have to compromise," to what he is saying. We have to compromise, but.
Things are really important. And even though we're not going to get it next year, you can't take a first step in a journey if you don't know where you're going. Right.
With Democrats, you have a debate between those that want to take the incremental win and those that say, no, we've got to hold out for something bigger.
Yeah, I mean, I think it can seem that way, and I think that's part of it, but I think it's less of an ideological battle and more of a battle of figuring out what are we talking about and what are we doing in this moment. It's not that progressives and it's not that me and that I don't believe in incremental change, right? I've been working in gun violence for 10 years. Yeah. We just got some incremental change with the bipartisan gun safety package that was passed. It wasn't everything that we need, but it's a good first step to ensuring that we end gun violence. I think it's important to realize that it's okay to ask for a lot. In fact, that's why people have sent us here. It doesn't mean we're not going to compromise for something else, but it means we shouldn't show up at the debate already at the compromise.
There it is. There it is exactly. I mean, I don't like when people are like, oh, this young man actually has some sense. Plenty of young folks speak plenty of truth. It's rare for a politician at all to be that on point, to be that laser accurate. Max Frost just said, yeah, we have to compromise because we live in the real world, and to get things done, we're going to have to deal with other forces, sure. But don't show up pitching the compromise, which is what Democrats do. They sit down and they say amongst themselves, we want X. I say Democrats, but I really mean centrist Dems. Centrist Dems sit down and say, we want X. But Republicans will want A. So let's just go and pitch them F. Way, way closer to what the Republicans want. And then Republicans will negotiate from there. So we end up with Democrats supporting extraordinarily right-wing policy. And it has gotten us where we are. Max Frost represents a generation which has seen that nonsense. Generation, I suppose, in terms of politics, not necessarily age, but a generation of politicians that have seen that nonsense and don't put up with it. I would include that fella from New Jersey that just dunked on Oz, Fetterman. Different age, same generation of politicians. He is Max Frost and Fetterman are great examples of people that do not put up with that nonsense. You might see more titles like the one ABC put out of interviews with Max Frost, where they make it seem like this young cat is supporting centrist Dems. Don't let him fool you. Listen to what the guy has to say, because everything I've seen so far, at least, shows him to be an incredibly astute politician who is going to be a very positive force in the United States of America.